Welcome to the Hunt Fish Travel Podcast, the first and longest running female hosted hunting podcast. When she's not tiptoeing across 10 inches of hard water searching for the perfect place to ice fish, she's helping you navigate your trip of a lifetime. And now, here's your hostess, Carrie Zilka.
This episode is brought to you by Kryptek, Kryptek. I am in love with their new camo. I wore the Highlander bib overalls and coat while I was hunting down in Illinois and up in Wisconsin. And I can't wait to wear it this year in the cold weather because it really kept me super warm and I love the Highlander pattern. So it's brought to you by Real Avid. Check out Real Avid for all of your gun needs. They have a wonderful shotgun tool as well as lots of AR accessories. So if you're into guns, check out realavid.com. Welcome to the Hunt Fish Travel Podcast. I am your hostess, Carrie Zilka, and I'm super excited about this episode because we are talking to Tanner Cherney about fishing on Devils Lake in North Dakota. And if you're not familiar with Devils Lake in North Dakota, because you've been apparently living under a rock, because anyone in the Midwest or the upper states who's into fishing knows about Devils Lake, North Dakota. But if you don't know about it, you can always go to Devils Lake ND for North Dakota. .com and view all the stuff that they got going on there. Their social media channels are there. They've got a really great website. But for now, we're going to talk to Tanner, and he's going to tell us all about why you should come and visit. Tanner, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Carrie. How are you today?
I am good. So for the listeners, we are recording this on January 24th. It is a balmy, 50 frickin' degrees in Wisconsin. What are the temps up there by you?
We are balmy 21 degrees here in North Dakota. Bluebird skies, a little bit of a northwest wind, probably pushing 30 miles an hour. So around here, it's a nice day.
That's awesome. Ugh, I wish we would get some colder temperatures. All of our ice seems to be disappearing. Sorry, what's the ice depth up by you?
We are sitting currently with probably between 20 to 24 inches of ice. We started off the season fantastic in December. We had a couple weeks there of some really brutal cold temps where it was pushing 15, 20 below. So we got off to a good start, and it formed some good ice. The only downfall, which it kind of was all over the news over Christmas, we got a couple blizzards up in our neck of the woods that dumped about 3 feet of snow in a matter of 2 weeks. So it kind of halted ice making for a while it was insulating the lake. But with a little bit of warmer temps these last couple days and a little bit of, January rain, I guess is what we've been seeing, it kind of brought the snow levels down. So we're making ice, and it's been a pretty good season so far.
That's awesome. So let's give the listeners a little bit of history of why, if they don't, and I was joking within the intro, unless you're, honestly, unless you're a really hardcore fisherman and study the fish reports and who's catching what where, Devil's Lake, people might not know much about it. So why don't you tell the listeners why, if you're a fisherman, you should consider Devil's Lake, North Dakota for your next fishing adventure?
Sure. Well, I can give you a little history on the lake. For those that don't know, we are one of the largest natural bodies of water in the United States. We're a closed basin lake. So back in the early 90s, our lake was probably about 40,000 acres in size. And we had, as it being a closed basin lake, there's no river coming in or out of it. And the basin that runs into the lake that for drainage from ag fields is probably about 40 miles north of here. So all of the runoff from the spring snow melt and rain comes towards our basin and had nowhere to go. So from about 1990 to about 5 years ago, we went from 40,000 acres to about 220,000 acre lake. It just started flooding like crazy. And being in Dakota, most people know we're pretty flat out here. So when the lake rose up vertical foot, it covered 10,000 acres of land. And there was a lot of habitat that got consumed when the lake started flooding. And it just, with all the water and abundant, I would say there's a lot of fresh water in our system. So between that and the habitat that it provided, it just kind of spurred off and became a really famous lake for perch and walleye fishing. So it's probably about 50 miles wide, and it varies from north to south how big. There's a lot of different back bays, but the unique thing about Devils Lake is it's a year-round fishery up here. So, ice fishing, first ice till when ice comes off, and going to the summer months, you're in ice fishing, open water fishing, you can fish it anytime you want. Our season runs from March or April 1 to March 31st, so our season's always open up here. But it's been one heck of fishery in the last 15, 20 years now.
That's amazing. So was it always a big tourism attraction, or is that a relatively new development? You guys have a lot of resorts, a lot of them.
Yeah, it's been a new development here. I would say probably in the last 10 years, it's really taken off as the tourism industry goes. Even a little more backstory on the lake, probably at least 40, 50 years ago, the lake was to the point where it was almost drying up. And there's a bay that's right out of town called Creel Bay. And one of my best friends, when his dad was in high school, they used to be able to wade across that, and it was maybe 5, 6 feet deep. And I mean, now when you're going through the middle of that bay with your boat, you're pushing 40 feet. And at that time, they were trying to figure out ways to get water into the lake just to keep it going, because essentially it was kind of a slough at that time. And now, I mean, they're trying to figure out ways to get water out of the lake to kind of recoup some of that farmland. So in the last 10 years, we've noticed, especially with our resorts and hotels around the area, everyone's kind of taken accustomed to the tourism industry. In our county here, agriculture is our number one industry, and tourism's number two right behind it. So, for instance, we have a handful of hotels that opened up in the last 5 years in Devils Lake, and some of the unique things that they kind of embraced with our tourism around here is they've put in fish cleaning stations right on their hotel property for their guests to use. A couple of the hotels, they've even put in dog kennels that are heated. So if you're coming up duck hunting in the fall, and most of the hotels that don't have pet friendly, they have the kennels there. So your puppy has a place to sleep at night in comfort. And, you know, it's just been one of those deals where everyone's kind of chipped in and figured out ways to kind of embrace tourism. And another unique thing that we've established here about, I want to say it's probably 4 years ago, through a community effort and our Game and Fish, we have a public fish cleaning station that's indoors about a mile out of town. So when you're up here ice fishing and the temps turn to 30 below and you're getting off the ice for the day and you don't want to have to clean your fish outside or figure out a way to clean them, you can come into this heated indoor fish cleaning station, and it's free to use, and it's one heck of a facility to be able to showcase for visitors coming in.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
where does the lake...
We're pretty fortunate up here with our fishing that it's kind of taken on a world of its own.
You know what, though? That's really cool, because it's unlike, say, something like hunting. Fishing, anybody can do. You can just go and buy a $10 rod from Walmart and a $15 fishing license, and you can go out and give it a shot.
Yep.
So that's really cool that you make it very accessible for people. And it sounds like it might even be a really good place for maybe even beginners, because it seems like there's, I don't know, I mean, obviously I've never visited, but just from what I've read and on the forums and stuff, it seems like there's a very open culture. Like, everybody's very helpful and friendly. And like you said, there with the fish cleaning stations, because, if you're not familiar with fishing, you get off, what do I do with this? Well, you go over to the fish cleaning station. Chances are there's going to be even somebody there who can help you.
Yep.
So
yeah, and there's even
really
people
great.
that have kind of taken the whole fish cleaning to a new level around here too. I know a few high school guys and college kids that were just trying to make some side money when they were going through school, even put up signs at the fish cleaning station, and that they would pay for people to, or they would have people pay them to clean their fish if they just wanted to maybe take a break after all their fishing for the day. But like you said,
awesome.
It is one of the unique things. The fishing is very accessible, and with the rising waters we had up here, we have, I don't know the exact number, but just miles and miles of shoreline up here. And over the years, our roads have been built up and built up and built up. So there's essentially a shelf system right off the roads if you get down on the rocks, which in the evenings provides some phenomenal walleye fishing. So you don't have to have a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 boat to get on good fishing up here. You can just walk down the shoreline and wet your line right there. And I mean, I know a lot of guys that prefer to do that versus putting a boat in the water and going through all the hassle of that you can essentially be within 5 minutes of town from some world-class fishing.
That's cool. That's awesome. I don't have a boat, so I'm always a big fan of trying to find some decent shore fishing, because it can be tough.
Yep. And I don't know if you, in your research a little bit, heard about our shore fishing pier project that we just started this last year at all.
No.
But for those that are not familiar with it, the state of North Dakota had a outdoor heritage fund that they had in place for a couple of years, and it was for different outdoor projects from conservation to hunting and fishing related things to enhance outdoor recreation in the state. So in our town, we, with a collaboration of people, kind of put together a grant towards that outdoor foundation to get a few shore fishing piers installed in the area, because you get good fishing off the shoreline and the rocks, but for a lot of the people that were trying to get out there, climbing over rocks and slippery wet rocks weren't the greatest for people that couldn't move the easiest. So we have right now, through this Outdoor Heritage Foundation, 3 shore fishing piers that are going to be handicap accessible getting put into our lake. We had the one this summer that just got installed, and we had a lot of good feedback on it. So it's fully ADA compliant. It's on a really good spot. And we're kind of trying to make sure that everyone that wants to get out fishing has that opportunity.
So tell me, where does the lake get its name from exactly? Because Devils Lake, that's kind of a scary name.
It is. It kind of goes back to an old Native American legend. It had to do with, we have the Spirit Lake Sioux Reservation right south of town here. And back in the day when, I forget how many years ago it was, but with it being a big, this lake is kind of like as I said, it grew, but it was smaller. Well, many years ago, it was also to the size it is now. So it's not the first time it's flooded, but it's gone down. And back then, when there wasn't much for infrastructure, and when it's this big, the waves got the lake was so big and the waves got so big out there that there was a lot of small boats and stuff that got basically capsized. And with the Native American legend, they believed that the devil lived inside the lake with the kind of the spirits and everything. So that's kind of how the lake gained its name from it and kind of stuck that way. But yeah, we always, living here all your life, you kind of think Devil's Lake, it's just another name. But when you start talking to other people and you mention Devil's Lake, they kind of curious on how it came about that way.
Right, exactly. So you guys are hailed as the Perch Capital of the world.
We are unofficially the Perch Capital of the world.
I know, that's so funny, because you always say the muskie capital of the world, walleye capital of the world. Us Midwesterners, man, we've got it going on when it comes to fishing.
Everyone's got to have their claim to fame.
Right? Tell me why you think so let's start off by telling the listeners the size. Say they come up to go ice fishing in January, and they're going for perch. What are some of the sizes they can expect to catch?
Well, our typical perch, I would say like an average length is going to be a 12-inch perch. But, I mean, there's people catching perch between 12 to 15 inches. It's, like I said, we have that huge population of freshwater shrimp, so they're a healthy 12 to 15 inches. I had one last winter that I caught that was, I want to say it was 13 3/4 of an inch, and he weighed in at 1.88 pounds. And so there's some big perch up here. I mean, the fun part about it is our limit for perch right now is 20 a day, and it's a 2-day possession limit. So if you get up here and you get on a pretty good perch bite, you'll have your hands full for the day if you get into a few of them that big. But half the time when you're reeling one of these perch up, you keep thinking it's a walleye just the way it's fighting. And, everyone's used to a little 6 to 8-inch perch, but these ones have a belly on them.
That's crazy. I want to kind of contrast the ice fishing compared to open water fishing, because obviously not everybody wants to go and sit on 2 feet of ice, but I don't think what people understand is us Midwesterners, we do it right, and you're not just sitting out on a 10-gallon bucket in the middle of the ice. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the resorts and the available accommodations that somebody could rent, guides, etc., if they were coming up for an ice fishing trip?
Okay. So yeah, there's, like you said, the age-old ice fishing is sitting on a bucket and fishing there, but man, it's changed in the last 15 years. We have a handful of resorts up here, and they all have different options that they provide, but there's a few that provide permanent ice houses. So basically you show up in the morning and they have this heated ice house set up on a specific spot, and they drill your holes, and you just got to show up with your rod and reel and you're set to go. Then we do have a handful of guides that do the portable, which is kind of probably one of the best ways to fish Devil's Lake. mainly because the perch out here are kind of a basin roamer. So you're kind of constantly trying to stay one step ahead of them as the school is moving. So what a lot of the guides will run are like a portable ice house that you can have 2 guys fishing in. And what they will do is they'll drive you out, they'll pick you up from your hotel or your resort, drive you out to the spot on the ice where they kind of have an idea where the best bite's going on. They'll drill your holes, set your portable ice house out, and get your heater going, which everyone thinks a portable ice house might be cold, but I mean, with the way the heaters have gone these last few years, you could be sitting in there fishing in your t-shirt and shorts for all that matters. And they will drop you off, and once they get you all set up and fishing, they will just start scouting and basically venture out another 5 or probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles, and just start drilling holes. And if they find more active fish, they'll come back, pick you up, bring you over to the next spot, and then set you back down and try to basically keep you one step ahead of the game. And then what we've really seen take off in probably the last 2 years are what are called snow bears, which has been a pretty cool concept for Devils Lake. Basically, for people that aren't familiar with what a snow bear is, it's kind of like I don't know how you would describe it, but it would be like a bombardier, kind of shaped like a space shuttle, maybe I would say.
Yeah.
But you can fish 4 guys in there, and they're basically an enclosed little machine. So once you leave shore and you get inside there, you could stay inside the snow bear all day and move around, and you drill your hole right inside of it. So it's basically like a portable...
Like a minivan. It's like a minivan.
Exactly.
Kind of on the ice.
Yep, with tracks on it and skis, like a snowmobile. Yep. So you can virtually go anywhere on the water or on the ice.
Yeah, they're awesome.
So yeah, we have quite a few guides like Haybell Heights out here and Bry's Guide Service. They all are running snow bears too. So you got a wide variety of options to kind of satisfy your needs for fishing.
That's cool. I keep saying that's cool because it is so cool. Oh my
gosh, is.
People are going to be like, okay, Carrie, stop saying that's cool. But it is. Devils Lake is on my bucket list for ice fishing destination. It is because you go, I mean, any hardcore ice fisherman knows Devils Lake, and especially my husband is like crazy fanatic when it comes to perch, and I'm just like, we have to go there because you will be in seventh heaven.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun, and like one of the weird things when you're looking for perch out here, I mean, you're in 35 feet of water and you're just in the middle of nowhere and you're drilling holes, but what you're kind of looking for is when you drill that first hole and you pull your auger up, you're hoping that you find the mother lode of the freshwater shrimp. So basically almost like someone sprayed pepper around your ice hole, and that's the hole you want to fish because you know shrimp there's going to be perch.
That's cool. That's a good tip. Is there winter camping? I happen to know who loves to go winter camping. Do you have winter camping in state parks that are open year round?
That's actually a very ironic comment. I was just out at our state park here yesterday. It's called Graham's Island, and we were talking to the manager because they are in the process of finishing up a brand new bait shop and visitor center that they just had built this fall. And I was talking to him about, I get a lot of calls in of people that want to camp with their permanent ice house and go out in the day and come back to shore and have a place to stay instead of staying in a hotel or something like that. And he said that they actually just cleared off some spots for campers to plug in at, but they have different options out there at our state park too. So if people are wanting to come up and camp during the winter, you can give them a call out at Graham's Island, and they'll do their best to accommodate you out there. And then they have their boat ramp right there that you can get on the ice, so you're all set.
That's cool. Yeah, because if somebody has like a Winnebago and they can tow their ice shanty behind, why not?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, it's about 15 miles out of town, and the really cool part about the state park there is it's kind of in one of the more central parts of the lake, so you're within 5 minutes of kind of the eastern third of the lake, and you're within 5 minutes of the western third of the lake, so you're kind of conveniently located.
Okay. So just staying on the winter vein, do you have a big snowmobile culture up by you? We
do. Actually, this year is the first year in probably 3 years that we've been able to even snowmobile. I mean, last 2 winters we've had hardly any snow, but we have quite a few. We have our Lake Region Snowmobile Association, which is our local snowmobile club, and they do have some groomed trails that they offer. And I know there's some other ones in the state as well. But yeah, So this year, I think things are kind of kicking back up after a few winters of little to no snow. But we have that, and then for the people that are kind of more into the cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, we do have out at that state park at Grams Island, they have probably about 3.5 miles of groomed cross-country ski trails out there in the trees. So it's kind of a nice little option for if you're coming up fishing and maybe someone wants to take a little break for the day and go venture around for a little bit.
And so let's transition a little bit into, say, spring and summer. Do you have a lot of hunting opportunities, say turkey hunting, spring turkey hunting?
We do. The only thing that comes up with that is the way our turkey seasons line up. We have a spring and a fall season, but the spring season is only open to residents, and then the fall one, non-residents can apply for a turkey tag. But for those that want to get on hunting in the spring, we do have our spring snow goose season that usually kicks off, I think it's towards the end of February, beginning of March. And we get a good migration of the snow geese that are starting to move back up north coming through here. And we probably get about a 2 to 3 week window depending on how much snow we have at that time and the conditions of the fields and stuff like that. But if all things line up and the snow isn't too much and the fields are exposed, we can probably keep snow geese here for 3-4 weeks, I would say. So that is one option.
Excellent. So so let's talk more about fishing then in the summer. So obviously you can camp at Grams Island State Park. Are there other parks around Devils Lake that one could camp at?
There's a couple resorts that have a few overnight camping spots, but Grams Island's probably our number one main camping area. I think they have like 180 some campsites. But what happened when the lake started rising, a lot of these farmers that their land was starting to go under, they converted some of their fields into seasonal campgrounds. So a lot of these people will have campers that they bring up and they'll park in these seasonal campgrounds for 1 year for the season and pay one-time fee. And basically they come back on the weekends and kind of call it a home away from home. But yeah, Grams Island's probably our main place for camping.
Okay. And if someone wanted to come up there and they didn't have a boat, someone like me, say my husband and I want to come up there for a week in the summer, and we would like to rent either a pontoon boat or a fishing boat, are there boat rental facilities on the lake? There
is. I think right now we have 3 different options for that. There's the Spirit Lake Casino has boat I think they just have pontoon rentals there. East Bay Resort has boat rentals, and then Woodland Resort, which is about 5 miles out of town, they have boat and pontoon rentals. So if you don't have a boat, we definitely have you covered up here.
Excellent. And then in the fall, do you guys have, so what kind of species are all on in Devils Lake? Obviously perch and walleye.
Yep.
What else have you guys got?
We have the perch, we have the walleye, northern pike, which is probably one of our most underfished species in the lake. They seem to be everywhere. And they're,
that's what everybody says.
Yeah, and they're not your.
They always want to go for the perch.
And the unique thing about our pike is they're feeding on a lot of these perch, so they're not small pike. I mean, our average pike is that 28-inch to 32-inch pike. And then we have white bass, and then we have had in the last probably 4 or 5 years, crappie starting to show up on our system. Apparently, they were stocked back in the 60s. And it was a small number of them, and everyone just kind of thought that they never were able to reproduce and kind of were non-existent. And all of a sudden, about 4 years ago, a couple people caught a couple in one summer. And ever since then, it seems like the numbers have picked up. So we have a population now of crappie starting to show up in the lake.
Oh, that's cool. They were sneaky.
They were.
They were hiding out.
I'm still trying to find my first one in this lake.
Do you guys have lake trout?
We don't.
No?
We don't.
That's okay. You'll say it like you're sad.
I kind of am.
I know, right? Because I was like, ooh, I bet they'd be big in Devil's Lake. So then in the fall, do you guys have muskies or no?
We have, there's been tiger muskie that have been stocked.
Okay.
And I want to say there was one caught 2 years ago, and before that it was probably 5 years ago that the last one was caught. So they're not as prevalent as they used to be, but I would say there's got to be a few more left in the system somewhere. There's a lot of places for them to hide.
So if you're looking for a fall fishing trip, probably go after walleyes and perch and
Yep.
be done with it.
Yeah, that would be your best bet.
What would be the number one secret fishing spot? If I was coming there and I had to fish from shore, where would you suggest that I go for a day to wet a line?
I would say we have 4 bridges on the lake. Actually 5 if I include the Woods Rutten Bridge. So we have 5 different bridges that are on the lake on a couple of our highways. I would suggest you would go down on the shoreline right off of those bridges where the current's coming through, and you'd either you can have 2 lines in the summer, so you could throw like a Lindy rig with like a leech on there, or a slip bobber with a leech, and then maybe a jig with like a twister tail, or even a small crankbait, and throw one out there with the leech and just let it sit, and then have the other rod with your jig or your crankbait and just start casting and reeling. But you can usually have a safe bet on fishing near the bridges in the morning and the evening.
Okay. That's good to know. Because I remember off the top of my head. Well, how do services and outdoor media coordinator? That is quite the title.
It is, and I never even started with that title. I am 25. I was born and raised in Devils Lake, and I graduated from college back in 2014. And when I graduated from college, I was kind of looking for different jobs. I used to be, in the summer, I actually during school, I worked out at the state park as a maintenance worker. And then the last summer before I graduated, I did a little guiding on Devils Lake for a part-time job. And that kind of got me I was the tourism industry that way. And at that time, if the guiding was really the right thing for me, doing that day in and day out, if it would take the fun out of fishing for me or not. And when I graduated from college that year, I was actually looking kind of at some jobs in the area. I wanted to stay in Devils Lake because I'm kind of a small town guy. And at that time, I was going to probably keep guiding until I found a job. And it just so happened that our local CVB here was looking for, at that time, a tourism assistant position. So I applied for the job, and lo and behold, I did my interview, and a couple days later I got a phone call saying that they would like to hire me. So I was hired, I think it was about 4 days before I graduated, and started working there, and I've been here ever since. And I was about a year and a half ago, they switched my title from tourism assistant to visitor services and outdoor media coordinator to kind of make it seem like more than just being an assistant.
Right.
So that's kind of where that spun off of, and it's kind of been a roller coaster of a ride since then. It's been a lot of fun, and I get to help out a lot with the different TV shows and like this radio interviews and stuff like that with the media, kind of getting everyone informed about the area and showing them what the whole area is about and what we have to offer. So that's kind of how I got my start in the industry.
Awesome. From a tourism perspective, what do you think would be the biggest challenge that you faced in either getting the word out about your destination or just promoting it in general? What do you think would be the biggest challenge?
Well, that's a good question. I'd say in the last year, we kind of overcome some big challenges of just, usually December is when our ice fishing season starts, and it usually runs until end of March. Well, we've had some really odd falls where it's been super warm, and one of our challenges like last year was we didn't get safe ice until almost after the first of the year. So we had that, our duck season usually runs to the end of November, and so we kind of had a month of a lag time there where everyone was done duck hunting and no one could get ice fishing. So it was kind of a challenge to try to figure out how you're going to get people to the area when it's not quite ice fishing season yet. It's not safe, but trying to still make sure that people are coming in. So that's probably been one of the biggest challenges. And then kind of losing ice at the end of March, beginning of March, and then kind of not having open water until end of April. So you have another month there. So I would say that's probably been one of the bigger challenges, trying to kind of figure out how to fill that void.
Sure. Do you have a lot of people? So do you have a lot of people who get just kind of shitty about it because they're like, I just spent a bunch of money to come up here to the state to go ice fishing and there's no ice. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
How do you handle those people and how do you redirect them into other activities?
It's challenging. Like last year, so I would probably be safe to say we lost a good month and a half to 2 months, month on the beginning of the season and a month at the end. And most of our guide services and resorts, I think, called the last day of ice fishing for safety reasons being about March 12th is when they didn't do any trips after that. So a lot of them would refund their money and basically try to book them for a trip this year. So they've been trying to accommodate them to get them up the next year. Other than that, it's just basically getting word out that, it's out of our hands and it's kind of Mother Nature in control. But
yeah, I mean, people have to understand that. But I'm sure you get those people who, for some reason, it's your fault.
Yep. No, and you get a few that come up and, as any fishing goes, you can put the fish below you, but they're not always going to bite. So that gets to be a little tricky, too.
What has been the craziest thing that's ever happened to you as working in the tourism industry for Devils Lake, North Dakota?
The craziest thing.
Yeah, what's the craziest story? What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you?
Ooh.
Or a fishing story? Whatever.
I'm going to have to think on this one for a second. Well, one of the coolest things that happened was last year, that perch I caught, that 1.88 pound perch. That was my first ever official. North Dakota has a Whopper Club, and that was my first ever official fish into the Whopper Club. And it just...
What is the Whopper Club?
It's kind of like, so they have like predetermined fish weights. So like for walleyes, it's got to be an 8-pound walleye. For perch, it's got to be 1 3/4 pounds. For northerns, it's got to be 20 pounds. And it's kind of one of those deals where it's just, it kind of shows you've caught one of the, I would say it'd probably be like shooting a banded duck in kind of relative. So the day I caught that was actually the day we were filming with a TV show. So I got it on camera, of all things.
Oh, so that's awesome.
That was one of the coolest things. It was a fish that when we got to the spot, me and the other 2 guys I was fishing with, we had 2 augers and we drilled probably 40 to 50 holes and just started hole hopping between them. And I was fishing this one particular ice hole, and I was watching my Vexilar Forever trying to see if there was any fish down there, and lo and behold, one showed up, and he kept coming up and looking at my lure, but I couldn't get him to bite. But at the same time, I couldn't just leave the hole because I knew there was a fish there. So I was changing my lures, and it probably was like a 10-minute process before I finally got the sucker to come up and get a little more active, and he just slammed my lure. And the whole time I was reeling him up, I'm like, oh, this feels like it's going to be probably a pretty good walleye. And just my face when I pulled it through the hole, and it was a me shock. So that was probably one of the coolest things that happened.
That is cool. Wow, that's awesome.
So now I got a little certificate that says on this day of February 22nd, I caught a 1.88 pound perch. So I got to frame that and put it up in my office.
No kidding.
And then it's just the people you get to meet while you're doing this. I mean, when I started my job, it's been almost 3 years, I would have never thought that I would get to meet all the people in the industry. And the people in the outdoor industry, whether it's fishing or hunting, are some of the greatest people in the world to work with. So that has made it a lot of fun and kind of makes the job interesting. No 2 days are the same.
Ain't that the truth? It is fun. Obviously, I get to talk to a lot of really cool people. And it's so fun because I'm so passionate and excited about hearing about your destination. And you guys are so excited to tell me about it. It makes, every time I get done with an interview, my husband's like, so where are we going this time? Where are we going next? And I'm like, we're going to North Dakota.
I say, when are we going to get you up to Devils Lake and fish up here?
I know, right? No kidding. Because I have places on my bucket list to go fishing, and my husband thinks it's hilarious that North Dakota's on it. So.
What are the places?
I would really like to go to, of course, now you're going to ask me. I want to tell you specifically. Well, I guess they're really kind of general places. I'd like to fly fish for salmon on the Miramichi. I'd like to fish for the peacock bass in South America.
Ooh.
And then the rest of them are actually, they're not really places, but like I'd really like to catch a lake trout. Mm-hmm. So, and I'd like to go to Colorado to go fly fishing. And I've never been deep sea fishing, and I'd like to go in Hawaii. We go to Hawaii. We've been there 3 times, and I've yet to go frickin' fishing.
Well, now the next time you go, you have to.
I know, right? Like, come on, babe. Let's get this done. Like, can I please just check this off my list?
Well,
So
that would be an amazing
yeah,
place to
I
fish.
love fishing. I know, right? We went there for my 40th birthday in October, and we were gonna either go on an ATV ride or fishing, and it was gonna be like $1,000 to go fishing. So we did the less expensive trip with the ATV into the interior of Kauai, and it was so amazing, freaking phenomenal. So
Oh, I bet.
no complaints.
I bet.
We'll just have to go back so I can go fishing.
Yep. I went deep sea fishing once in my life, and it was an absolute blast. It was off the island of Barbados when we were on a cruise ship down there a couple of years ago, and it was.
Oh, that does sound amazing.
It was myself and my dad, and then 3 other guys about my age and their dad, and we went out for about a 6-hour fishing trip, and we caught one fish, and we all actually got a hand in reeling the fish in. It took us about 30 minutes, but it was a pretty good-sized barracuda, so that was really fun. We had an absolute blast.
Awesome. Yeah, as far as I have just really my ice fishing bucket list trips is Devils Lake, North Dakota, and Lake of the Woods. And ironically, I've done interviews with both of you guys in the last 7 days because I was like, I need to talk to these guys.
Did you talk to Joe from Lake of the Woods?
Yes, he's so fun.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I see Joe quite a bit at a lot of the sports shows we go to are the same ones.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, these are the 2 interviews I need to get done this year about ice fishing.
Well, heck, you can almost make a extended trip out of that, come to Lake of the Woods and then Devil's Lake at the end of it, or vice versa.
Right. No kidding. How funny would that be? Oh my gosh. I love ice fishing. I wish we had more months to do it.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. People just don't even know. We've got a couple of folks coming up for sturgeon spearing in February. A couple from Illinois and 2 guys from Alabama, and it'll be interesting to see their reactions as you're standing out on a frozen lake and you hear the popping and
Yep. Yeah.
Fun.
It's amazing the places you go to that are 3-4 states away from here, closer to the south, and you start mentioning ice fishing, and then you just see their eyes get super big and think, what? You're on a frozen lake with water below you, and you're standing on a foot of ice, and you're building fires on the lake and fishing out there.
I know, totally.
They think it's the craziest thing ever. And we're like, it's just another day up here in the Midwest.
Exactly. We're not all crazy. This is a real thing.
You're missing out on some of the finer things in life.
Well, Tanner, this has been a really fun interview. And of course, like I said, I'm going to get off this phone. I'm going to text my husband. We got to get up there. And now we know where to go and some information. So tell the listeners where they can find you, your website, and your social media channels.
Sure. So I do have our website is devilslakend.com. And like you said, that's ND as in North Dakota. And on there, it's going to have pretty much everything you're going to need to know. It's going to have all of our hotels listed in there. It'll have a lake map on our website that kind of shows where the resorts are located at. It's going to have our campgrounds listed. It'll show our restaurants. It'll have our phone number on there, which I can give you right now as well. It's 1-800-233-8048, and that'll ring right into our office, and either myself or Susie will probably be the ones answering that phone call, and we can answer your questions right there. We do have a visitor guide that we send out for people that are requesting it, so if they want a hard copy of what they see on the website, they can call that number and we'll mail them out a visitor guide. And then you can find us on Facebook at /Devils Lake, or visit Devils Lake. And we try to keep a lot of people informed on our Facebook page with the different fishing reports, and we're always trying to pull pictures from our guides up here that are catching fish every day, just to kind of show people that, the bite's going and how things have been doing, and people that are visiting and fishing with us to share their photos with us on our Facebook page, and we'll put them out there for everyone to see.
All right. Well, Tanner, again, thank you so very, very, very much for coming on the show. We appreciate you taking the time, and I hope that we have gotten everyone excited to go ice fishing up in North Dakota. Obviously not this year, but maybe next year.
I hope so too. Thanks, Carrie.
And that'll do it. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to find the show on iTunes. Just search for Hunt Fish Travel Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on social media. just go to huntfishtravel.net and click on the social media icon of your choice. The only one that's not listed there is Periscope. You can always find me on Periscope, same Twitter handle, @CarrieZilka. Until next time.